That, for a limited time, your Forest Adventure set is free with purchase of the hit movie Fern Gully, rated G.
Isn't this great?
Look for your free adventure set when you buy Fern Gully at Movies to Go.
Thank you for making TV8 Central Iowa's most watched station for news.
Smith and Paula Zonaroff, welcome to CBS This Morning.
Making headlines this morning, a strong earthquake rocks Nicaragua.
Plus, how an energy-efficient home can save you money on your mortgage.
And get ready for country's #1 song from country superstar Vince Gill.
I'll make it up to you.
And when the cat's away, the mice will play.
It's our turn today. They're both off this lovely Wednesday. Do you like country music?
Yes, I do very much. I got my start in this business working at a country radio station.
Well, you're going to be at home today with Vince. He'll be coming up a little bit later on.
Sure.
And he's going to sing "Oh, What a Beautiful Morning," too.
Hey. I was listening to it before. It's wonderful. Dr. Bob Arnott has joined our army of correspondents following the recovery from Hurricane Andrew. This morning, he will report from a MASH-style field hospital as we bring you up to date on what's happening in South Florida.
And with more companies offering paternity leave, why aren't more workers taking it? We'll get the answer to that question a little bit later on this morning. Edie?
And now let's get you caught up on the latest news this morning. In Nicaragua overnight, an offshore earthquake sent tidal waves up to 30 feet high, slamming into coastal villages. The quake registered a powerful 7 on the Richter scale and was centered just off Nicaragua's Pacific coast. At least 30 people are confirmed dead, and authorities fear the toll could go much higher. Officials are evacuating the area, concerned that aftershocks might trigger more tidal waves. The victims of Hurricane Andrew are getting a much-needed boost in what has been a frustrating process of recovery. President Bush is promising to open the federal checkbook to help the people and communities rebuild. He is also asking the nation to pitch in. Randall Pinkston has more.
In a brief national television address, the president asked all Americans to help in the relief effort and even gave out an 800 number.
If you don't know where to turn and you want to help right now, please call the American Red Cross at 1-800-842-2200.
In advance of the speech, the president, with Mrs. Bush at his side, spent the day visiting hurricane-damaged areas for a close-up look.
Think you can sleep on something like that? Better than the bed that's been blown away, isn't it?
If the picture showed a president in charge and concerned, his campaign strategist acknowledged it was politically beneficial, even while Mr. Bush denied any such motives.
I have tried, and I know the governor has, the senators have, congressmen standing with me have, tried to keep it out of the political arena.
And he brought plenty of aid, including a decision to rebuild the devastated Homestead Air Force Base, even before defense officials had a firm grasp on the total cost of reconstruction. In Louisiana, Mr. Bush listed all the largesse an incumbent president brings to a tragedy.
What we have done, 300,000 MREs, 100 generators set up, 8 parishes declared disaster areas. The emergency food stamps are available. SBA loans and temporary housing assistance now available.
For all the points he may have earned today, a Democratic analyst insists Mr. Bush faces another test.
The problem for the president is he can only make a several-hour visit and then he has to move on. I think people just want to know that the commitment's going to last longer than that one trip.
Even under the cloud of destruction left by Hurricane Andrew in a presidential election year, it may be impossible for Mr. Bush to appear totally non-political, especially since his own campaign aides admit that Florida is essential to the president's re-election. Randall Pinkston, CBS News, the White House.
In South Florida, federal troops are putting the finishing touches on tent cities to house thousands of homeless families. Juan Vasquez is standing by now in Homestead, Florida. Good morning, Juan.
Good morning, Edie. The tent cities are springing up all over Homestead now, but there's no one in them yet. Plugging in electricity, making them habitable, that'll take time, but we are assured that some of these tent cities will be ready for use later today.
Sensitive to criticism that the federal government moved too little and too late into the disaster area, the troops are under orders now to hustle, to get the job done right away.
We're doing our best. We're working as fast as we can. We're working about 18, 19 hours a day.
As if to underline the Pentagon's commitment, Defense Secretary Dick Cheney accompanied President Bush on his latest tour of the stricken region. Cheney said early confusion over the role of federal troops in providing security has been dispelled.
Best I can tell, from what I'm hearing from the local officials, well, they had a problem initially. They think they've got it under control now.
At night, without electricity and with looting a major problem, security is an overriding concern to many victims of the hurricane. Soldiers patrol the streets, their role to assist local law enforcement officers. Gun sales have soared as homeowners all over Dade County seek to protect what is theirs.
We have a hole in our roof, and, you know, probably somebody might come in there. And I live alone with my daughter, and, you know, I want something to protect her.
Even some parts of Miami, parts well north of Homestead, have been informed that they may be without electricity for still another 3 weeks. And that adds to the misery and the discontent that is still pervading this entire region. Edie?
Juan, what's been the reaction from the folks there to Mr. Bush's announcement yesterday that he will rebuild Homestead Air Force Base?
The reaction to President Bush's commitment, really, that's the best news that the people down here have heard. Everybody is very happy because Homestead Air Force Base, along with agriculture, provided the Homestead Air Force Base was the largest employer in this region on its own. And the figure they're talking about here is $450 million to rebuild. So people here are quite happy to hear that.
All right, Juan Vasquez in Homestead, Florida. Thanks so much. Much more on the hurricane recovery effort coming up, including a look at the military's role with Defense Secretary Dick Cheney. Bill Clinton faces new questions this morning about how he avoided military service during the Vietnam War. The former head of an Arkansas Navy Reserve unit says that in 1968, Clinton's uncle sought to delay Clinton's induction by landing him a spot in the reserve. Clinton says he knows nothing about it.
I can tell you this, I have told the truth about my draft status, and I have told you the only military option that I ever considered or that I was ever offered was the one I have reported to you. That's it. And that's what I have said. I have nothing to add to my previous comments.
Mr. Clinton insists he never received favorable treatment to avoid the draft. President Bush officially returns to the campaign trail today, and he is expected to pledge help to another group of voters. In a visit to a General Dynamics plant in Texas, Mr. Bush is expected to announce that he is lifting a ban on the sale of F-16 fighter jets to Taiwan. The decision could save up to 5,000 jobs that the company had planned to cut. California Governor Pete Wilson signed a $57 billion budget this morning, a half hour after the legislature gave final approval to its last component. That ends a 9-week crisis during which California resorted to IOUs to pay its bills. On the financial markets this morning, the dollar continues to decline. In Tokyo, the Nikkei stock index fell more than 0.75% overnight. And on Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average stands at 3266 after gaining almost 9 points yesterday. Finally, when the top seeds at the U.S. Open tennis tournament play the qualifiers in the first round, it's not supposed to be close. But somebody forgot to tell the unheralded Shawn Stafford. She took the first set from third-seeded Martina Navratilova 6-4. Navratilova came back to take the second, and she was leading 5-1 in the third when Stafford roared back. Stafford took 4 straight games before Martina remembered who's boss and won. 6th seed Jennifer Capriati also had a scare, almost losing the first set before coming back to win. And it is 8 minutes now after the hour. Helping us with the weather this morning is Roy Leep of WTVT in Tampa. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Edie. Good morning from Tampa. Things are rather bright here in the Florida area, but out in the Central Plains, it's a different story this morning. We've got a big mass of clouds covering portions of the Midwest. And down here in Oklahoma, considerable thunderstorm activity has been going on all night. You can see the big cluster of thunderstorms move through there. Throughout the day, this area of showers and thunderstorms will be advancing eastward. On our weather map, you can see that the overall national picture is calm in the northeast. Another good day in store up that way. Pretty cool, however, in upstate New York with 39 degrees around Messina and Glen Falls this morning. That weather will be moving on out, and it looks like rain for much of the northeast tomorrow. However, down in the portions of the southeast. It's going to continue summery. Large area of rain in the nation's midsection will continue to drift eastward, and some of it will be locally heavy. Locally heavy thunderstorms, especially in Oklahoma. Consult your local area information there. On the high temperature pattern for tomorrow, it looks like readings are for today, rather. Temperatures will be in the 90s across much of the deep south. The cool weather, a preview of autumn continuing in the northeast. That's the weather across the nation. Now here's a look for your hometown. Boston, sunny and 74. Daytona, Ohio, cloudy and 76. Athens, Georgia, partly cloudy, 84 degrees. That's the weather information across the nation, and we'll have more on that cluster of showers and thunderstorms next time around. Edie?
Thanks, Roy. More now on the hurricane relief efforts. Joining us from the Pentagon to talk about the military's role is Defense Secretary Dick Cheney. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Was the trip yesterday with Mr. Bush successful?
I think it was. It was amazing to me to see how warm and friendly the people were in terms of their reception of the federal presence, but also the tremendous outpouring of support from all around the country, the private agencies, the volunteers that have turned out to help rebuild southern Florida.
What is your assessment of the relief efforts so far?
I think it's going very well. The task is massive. Some have described this as the worst natural disaster ever to hit the country in terms of property damage, and I think that's probably true. Close to 100 square miles that's been just absolutely leveled. No buildings, no telephone poles, no trees left standing. And the scope of the effort in terms of just the cleanup and restoring basic services is massive, let alone the task then of going back to rebuild those communities. But the thing that impresses you when you're there is the extent to which, in fact, people, especially in the local community, have turned to get on with the job.
There are still problems getting those tent cities open. What is the holdup?
I don't know all the details at the local level. The tent cities are up in many cases. That is, the tents have been erected. In some cases, there are problems that have to be resolved with local officials. They actually will control when the facilities are used and when people move into it. And I think there are probably some problems at the local level that are still being worked out in terms of getting sanitation facilities up to snuff and so forth.
Mr. Bush has said that he wants to rebuild Homestead Air Force Base. There are a number of lawmakers who have questioned the wisdom of that at a time when you all are trying to cut back the defense budget and you have a number of bases now that are unused. What is your assessment of the wisdom of rebuilding it?
Well, I think it makes sense. I think if you look specifically at the base from a military perspective, it's been an important base over the years. It was the headquarters for a lot of our counter-narcotics activities in the Caribbean. But beyond that, this is a unique set of circumstances. I mean, you've got an area that has been totally devastated by the hurricane. The major federal presence in the region has been Homestead Air Force Base. The President felt very strongly that as a commitment of the United States government to our rebuilding southern Florida, it was vital for us to move forward and restore our major presence in the area, which is Homestead. So we will need congressional approval to do that. Congress will have to authorize and appropriate the funds for it, but we will make that request here within the next couple of weeks, and I hope and expect that they will approve it.
The initial efforts to mount this relief effort down there seemed to stumble an awful lot in the beginning because there was no so-called vertical chain of command. Who is in charge there now?
Well, the way the process works at the outset, of course, is that local officials initially are the ones who are charged with dealing with a problem, with a disaster like this. If they can handle it, then that's the end of it. If they can't, then it gets elevated up to the governor's level. He has certain authorities, the National Guard and so forth, available to him. We have the federal program, FEMA, that can move in and provide help and assistance as well. In terms of getting the military involved, that occurs when we get a request for help, and once we've received a request, then we respond.
And do you think that this is going to set a precedent for getting the military more involved when there are disasters of this magnitude?
Well, we already do a great deal, whether it's an earthquake in California, as we did earlier this year, the Los Angeles riots, the Hurricane Hugo a couple of years ago in South Carolina. This has become a normal kind of activity for the military, I think for understandable reasons. We've got certain capabilities, we've got a command system, we've got communications, logistics support, medical capabilities. We can do things that nobody else can do, and it's an activity we're happy to do. The troops enjoy it, it's important work, and so whenever we're called upon for this kind of assignment, we're happy to undertake it.
Is FEMA obsolete when it's something this big?
Well, when it's something this big, I think everybody's capabilities are strained just by the sheer enormity of the task. I think at the outset, a lot of people didn't understand just exactly how devastating this hurricane had been, or the wide area that had been affected by it. All the communications in the area had been eroded and destroyed. But I think FEMA's responding well. I think the agencies are responding well. We're now a little more than a week into it. I think one of the great success stories is the extent to which we were able to avoid significant loss of life from what one may well have been one of the most difficult and dangerous storms in the history of the nation.
Let me switch gears on you for a moment. The president is campaigning in Texas today. Can you confirm that he is going to announce the sale of F-16 fighter jets to Taiwan?
Of course not. If a decision is going to be made by the president, he'll make the decision. That's not something for me to preempt.
Thanks very much for joining us this morning, Secretary Dick Cheney. Mark?
It's 15 minutes after the hour. More on the hurricane still to come. Should Florida nail down changes in the building code? And in our next half hour on CBS This Morning, Dr. Bob Arnott on health care after the storm. Plus, Money editor John Stair on added savings from an energy-efficient home. And Steve Kometko on this summer's red-hot TV series, 2000 Malibu Road.
Last night, Russ Beeler, owner of Lake Edna KFC, opened Hammer's eyes to new popcorn chicken. Delicious, crispy, bite-sized morsels. A whole new way to enjoy the Colonel's chicken.
Come on, Hammer.
The problem was, no one could get him to go on. Until the last piece was gone.
That's pop.
New KFC popcorn chicken. Treat yourself for $1.99, the band just $5.99 in Lake Edna or your neck of the woods.
Fixing lunch is one of the joys of motherhood.
Peanut butter again?
It's a thankless job.
Egg salad? Isn't this your doggy bag from last night?
You're always pressed for time.
Are you mad at me?
Thank goodness for Lunchables from Oscar Mayer. Their best meats, cheeses, crackers, even dessert. Best of all, kids love them.
Thanks, Mom.
Lunchables from Oscar Mayer. Nothing but the best.
My nose hurts so bad. Like burning lava. Oh. It hurts, it gets really raw.
These noses need Puffs tissues. Puffs are softer than the other leading brand, so they're like first aid for your sore nose.
Ooh. This one is softer to me.
Ah.
Feels like satin.
Puffs are puffed for extra softness. See how they stack up against unpuffed tissues.
Now on, I'm using Puffs. I'm so relieved.
We have a winner here, folks. Puffs, first aid for your sore nose.
Now that I found Puffs, I'm never going back. Ever.
It's time to stock up on all my favorite brand name shoes from Roosevelt Bootery. All clearance shoes are now half price. That means I can buy twice as many pairs. It just doesn't get any better than the half price sale at Roosevelt Bootery.
I know a good deal when I see one, and this is it. Roosevelt Bootery has a huge selection of brand name men's career, casual, and sports shoes on clearance. Now all at half price. I like getting more for my money, and that's why I shop at Roosevelt Bootery.
It is 18 minutes after the hour. More now on the hurricane. Joining us now from Homestead, Florida is the city manager, Alex Muxo. Good morning to you, Alex.
Morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Alex, we've heard a lot of different views on how the military relief effort is going down there. What's your perspective on it?
It's going very well now that we've got the coordination in place. What we've established is